Hello, my name is Alexis, and in this video, I'm going to be demonstrating how not to and how to resolve conflict resolution within the workplace. One of the biggest things that I deal with within the workplace is conflict between diverse personalities, between day shift and night shift. It's that constant battle. So that seems to be my biggest part as a nursing leader is putting out fires, quote unquote. The situation that I'm going to present to you is between a day shift and night shift nurse. The night shift nurse getting a report notices that there's a lot of orders to be carried out, that the patient care hasn't been done, and she brings this up to the day shift nurse, who says that yesterday the night shift nurse left assessments for her, also left a patient care load that wasn't taken care of before she came in. And they can't get along, and they're not willing to give each other or accept report from one another. So that's the situation I'm going to be presenting. I've been in this situation multiple times. So within the first minute, you're going to see how not to resolve the conflict. Cody and Lindsay, who are my volunteers as my nurses, will be talking to one another, and I will step in and show you how not to resolve the conflict. Then in the second part of the video, the second minute, Lindsay and Cody will be going through the same scenario again. And when I step in the second time as the nurse leader, I'll show you how to resolve the conflict in a more positive and manner.
So in this video, we're going to be talking about conflict resolution, on how to resolve a conflict and how not to resolve a conflict. And we're going to start with how not to.
You didn't carry out your orders or chart any of your medications.
Well, you didn't finish your assessments yesterday when I got report, so now we're even.
Well, you always leave a mess for me. You night shifters don't do anything. So I don't know why it's so hard to get anything done.
Well, I'm sorry I don't get to come in and drink my coffee and go get breakfast before I even start my day. I always have to hit the ground running and clean up after your mess.
Well, I'm not taking a report from you. I'm going to go to the charge nurse to get a new assignment.
Well, I'm not staying any longer. I'm leaving.
Well, you know, Lindsay is right. I have to hear about how you don't carry out your orders every single day. The patients don't get quality care, and they always have to finish up any loose ends before you leave. I'm going to get you written up and talk to your charge nurse on day shift. So now we're going to talk about how to resolve a conflict with nursing leadership.
You didn't carry out any of your orders or chart any of your medications.
Well, you didn't finish your assessments yesterday when I got report, so now we're even.
Well, you always leave a mess for me. You night shifters don't do anything. So I don't know why it's so hard to get anything done.
Well, I'm sorry I don't get to come in and drink my coffee and go get breakfast before I even start my day. I always have to hit the ground running and clean up after your mess.
Well, I'm not taking a report from you. I'm going to the charge nurse to get a new assignment.
Well, I'm not staying any longer. I'm leaving.
Cody, Lindsay, I think we need to go into a private room. I think you two need to take a few moments to sit down and talk about the situation and come up with a solution on your own before I interject and take any responsibility or any action in your guys' problem, okay? You guys need to find a reasonable way to solve the problem, and then later, if you can't come up with a solution, I'll help you both out. But for the time being, please pass off report, please finish what you can, and we'll work together to solve this issue later after shift change. So as you can see, both conflicts were resolved differently, both positively, but one negatively. So, and later we'll talk about the 3 different ways that we talk to the nurses positively and negatively.
Hello, and thank you for watching our short video on how not to and how to resolve a conflict within the workplace. As you saw within the first short clip, the 2 nurses were arguing over assignment duties that were left over from the previous shift. And as you saw in the first scene, the nursing leader stepped in, and there were a couple of ways that it could have been handled better. So let's talk about a couple of ways that the nurse could have handled things better. So the first thing that the nursing leader did is she publicly berated the day shift nurse. She didn't pull them aside privately and decided to do it publicly, which is not right. If you need to resolve a conflict, you need to pull them into a private place. There's patients, family members, and other staff that don't need to be a part of that conflict. Secondly, the nursing leader chose sides. She took the side of her night shift staff instead of listening to both sides of the story and being a neutral and mediating party within the conflict. And thirdly, she didn't offer any guidance within the conflict. She just made threats against the day shift nurse that she was going to write her up and talk to her boss, and didn't really listen to both sides of the story once again, and wasn't a good mediator and to provide any guidance or solutions within the problem, which just makes the conflict worse. How do you imagine the day shift nurse feels when their nursing leader and leadership is coming to them making threats? So in the second portion of the conflict resolution video, the nursing leader steps in and is a little more positive and has a better attitude and has a little bit better guidance within the whole conflict resolution. So firstly, she took the two fighting nurses to a private area and decided to take it out of the public eye, so patients, family members, and other staff members weren't a part of the conflict. Secondly, she was calm and she stayed a neutral party. Even though she works with her night shift staff mostly, she still stayed a neutral party and listened to both sides of the story, and told them that they needed to get along and at least get through shift change, and they could resolve the problem later. That way we can get patient care initiated and keep the ball rolling within the ER. And thirdly, she offered ideas to resolve the conflict. She first sat them down and said that they need to sit down together and try to resolve the problem before she steps in. And in resolving conflict, it can be resolved at the lowest level, so between the two conflicting parties, then there's no reason for leadership to step in, whether it be a manager, the charge nurse, the director, whoever it may be. It needs to be solved at the lowest level. So if it can be solved between the two employees, then there shouldn't be a reason that the leadership should have to step in. However, if they cannot come to an agreement, if they still continue to fight, then there may need to be a meeting between the two staff members, between either the charge nurse or director, whoever it may be, to decide if these two nurses can either take report from each other, if there needs to be any disciplinary action taken, if we need to look into, is there really a pattern established by the employees if the nurse is not taking care of her patients, is leaving a large load of orders for the next nurse, things of that nature. But if it can be resolved on the lowest level, then I believe they should be fine. Moving forward, one of the questions that I was asked is, as the United States approaches the goal of health insurance coverage for all citizens, how do you think this will change how nurse leaders function within the organization? Provide a minimum of 3 ways you believe a nurse leader functioning will change, and provide rationale for your response. So in the changing days within the United States and the healthcare coverage changing for all citizens, I don't believe that there should be a large change for the nursing leaders within any organization, whether it be in the hospital, hospice, home care, primary care office. Whether a nursing leader is directing 2 people, whether they're directing 10 people, an entire department, they should stay about the same. They should provide fair leadership. They should provide direction. They should provide guidance to the people that are underneath them. They should provide quality care, and they should be promoting and encouraging their nurses to provide quality care. And I believe some of the only changes that are going to come about is the amount of patient volume that we may see within the hospital, within the doctor's offices, within hospice care, just across the board. And I think the nursing leaders need to be prepared for that large patient increase and the stress that may come from their nurses and from their staff from taking care of these patients, and from the diverse personalities that are be coming from the patients. So I think preparedness is something that they're going to have to change. I believe that they're going to have to step up their leadership game to manage probably a larger amount of nurses. I'm sure there's going to be more nurses hired to take care of these patients within the coming days. And thirdly, I believe that the nursing leadership should be prepared in the future to have more meetings with their management, with their unit team about these patients that are coming in. Are they going to be covered by government insurance? Do they have their own insurance? I'm sure that the unit or the organization that they work for will be concerned about monetary value, if they're going to be paid, how they're going to go ahead and charge for services and charge for equipment and things that they may need within the organization. So I think those are the three main things that nursing leadership may evolve within the future. But for the most part, as long as the leader stays cool, stays calm, confident in what they're doing, and they are positive about these changes that are coming, I believe they'll be fine within the changes that are coming with the United States with their goal of having the health insurance coverage for all citizens.